So last week on my live, I forget if that was Wednesday or Thursday, but I started showing you a scrapbook that I was putting together based on making it out of the piano roll paper. And I said I would come back and show you how I put it together and all that kind of good stuff. Well, um, I realized why I was having such a difficult time putting this one together because I was trying to do it here on my desk, which really is impossible, which leads up to why I couldn't literally do a tutorial of how I put this together because I went over to my large table that I have in the other room and I rolled out that piano roll. And what I did not realize is that your average piano roll is 23 feet long. So, needless to say, there is no way I can do a tutorial of how I did the folding of that. So I figured I would just show you on just a little piece of paper because it's basically just an accordion fold is what I did with this. Um, Let me give you an example, and then I'll show you how I finished this off. So if you imagine this is the piano roll, and trust me, it's a real pain in the patootie, stretching it out, having it stop rolling around. You got to put heavy things on it. So if you're easily frustrated, don't even attempt this because then you'll get mad at me. But if you got some heavy books and you have some patience and you know the rest of the story, then go for it. All right, so once it's all rolled out, then you find, this is what I did anyway. I knew that the papers, it's the roll itself, before you do any cutting of it, at least mine, and I think they're all pretty standard, so they could fit inside the pianos. It's 11 and a quarter, one roll, right? So I looked for a book that's if you want to repurpose a book. You could always make a custom one out of some cardboard or whatever. But I was looking to see if I had a book that it would fit. So I found this one and it was just like, half quarter to a half an inch short, which is good. I like a little leftover on the top and the bottom. And then it was about 9.5. So my goal, once I stretched this all out, was to create the accordion fold. What did I just say? See, I have a brain. 9.5. So I made sure that my folds were 9.5 across. And then I just started doing the traditional accordion fold that you would do. Whoopsie. And did it at that amount. Then after I did that, then I had to go back and you glue these sections together. Those of you that have made one, you know what's going on, but you might be the first time making one of these as far as the accordion books. So usually, you just leave the accordion book to open up. Then there's another style where if you want to create individual pages, you glue these sections together and you start creating these pages. Now, as we know, for the music can play out of these rolls, there are oodles of these lines because that's what made the music. So when you go to glue these together, when you put the glue in here, then out of these little lines and holes in the paper, now the glue comes out. So you need to be very careful that you don't use too much glue, but you use enough glue. And then if you're not patient enough to let that dry and you want to continue doing the others, then you need to put some kind of barrier there, some, you know, wax paper or something, parchment paper, something that isn't going to stick as easily. And then you can proceed to glue all these together. So you can see how it can get pretty frustrating. Meanwhile, while you're trying to do that, that's still starting to roll. Yeah, it's a lot of work. But let me tell you, if you have the patience to do all that, it's very gratifying because it came out pretty cool. At least I like how it came out. So I'll show you. Okay, so these would be all glued together, right? So now you have all these pages. And then what I did is then I started to decorate them because I still wasn't sure how I was going to bind it into the cover, and I just kept delaying it. So I just went ahead and did a lot of the decorating before I even put it in the book. Okay, so now moving on to the actual, I'm just calling it a scrapbook because I think that's, you know, those of you that have seen those old fashion scrapbooks that have been made out of recycled ledger books, you know what I'm talking about. There's some really cool ones out there, and they're very unique. And so that's what I was trying to mimic. So what I did was, like I said, I glued them all together, glued all the pages together, started decorating, ended up with this block, and I wasn't sure how I was going to attach it because what did I just do with that? Uh-oh. I must have fallen down. I'm losing things already. Oh no. Okay. Well, anyway, that little oh, here it is. Never mind. So when I glued these all together, I had this little the block back here, but I wasn't sure I was going to attach it. Traditionally, what I would do is I would just take this first one and glue it down, right? But this paper is very fragile. There was no way I was going to be able to do that. So what I ended up doing was having full pages, tore that piece off, just had the full page, and I put some fabric back here and bound it around, kind of like glued some fabric. I glued over about an inch over on the front, around the back, all the way to this area, and put the fabric. So a little bit on the front, a little bit in the back, and on the full spine. So now I had that bound, and I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere, and I knew it had some strength to it because it had the fabric on there. So now it was like, okay, well, now how do I put this into here? So the scrapbook that I'm trying to mimic, those were all glued and patched together because, you know, they were reusing an old book, and even though they probably used it the year that they finished it, it still was all put together. So what I ended up doing was getting, once this was all put together, I just laid it down, got another piece of fabric that I coffee dyed, and glued that onto here on top of the other piece of fabric that I already had, and then put the other piece on the cover that I had put together. And that is basically, whoops, this is basically how this got put together. And then I covered up the spine with some fabric. Um, yeah. So that's how I ended up doing that. I put some other paper on the cover because it was a little messed up. Did the same thing here on the back. Put some piano sheet music because I thought this was all made out of a piano roll. So the underlying theme was all kinds of music stuff and music paper and things like that. And then a lot of different things were thrown in because on a traditional scrapbook, you know, it went from family to family. In the old days, people actually did their scrapbooking, and the next generation appreciated it. And then somewhere along the line that stopped. So in here, there are papers from the late 1800s, turn of the century, up to like to the 1930s, and through a few little 1950s thrown in. Because I noticed after that, when you find the original ones like these, they usually have real old stuff, and then once you get into the 40s and 30, I mean the 40s and 50s, it tapers off, and people, you know, life changed, and the next generation just were not interested in these old books. So I kind of stopped it in the mid 50s and left it at that to try and really mimic um, the real ones that I've seen. Okay, let's move along. So I just started gluing, glue, glue, and glue, and then you have to also be careful when you're gluing these down. You're still going to get some of this glue going through. So again, even when you're all done and gluing. You have to be careful. Um, if you're gluing something on one side and it's still open on this side, the glue will come through. So there's a lot of, stuff you have to like pay attention to. But again, I like the finished product. So I'll just do a little flip through here. I found a lot of invoices that I had that were from the 20s and 30s. And they were like, this one's for simplicity patterns. I have some for old jewelry, for um, menswear. So I figured on special occasions, like there were weddings and things like that, people would have maybe saved some of their invoices and have memories of where they bought their things and the things that were included in their weddings. So I have those kind of sporadically through here. Some pictures are authentic, some are not. These right here, I had a scrapbook paper that had some old pictures. So these are from the scrapbook paper. But almost everything else, came from either the sheet music, real invoices, and the sheet musics were like from the turn of the century up to the 1930s also. So that worked out well. And then from maybe some old ledgers, so a little bit of all that. I also had some of those German scrapbook die cuts that you find in a lot of the older scrapbooks, so I decided to include a few of those in there, so you'll see them dispersed throughout. This came from a late 1800s ledger. This is from 1936, some kind of textile company. Maybe they bought their fabric to make the wedding dress. This came from the scrapbook paper, also the scrapbook paper. Now, I threw in some photographs from these in the back. If you look at them, they're from the 1930s. I put them down with these little photo tabs so that you can take the photographs out and read the back or add some of your own little journaling to it. And these tabs come from also a 1930s scrapbook that I got. So those are authentic from the 30s. So I thought that was kind of cool. These are little corners are glued down, but the pictures are not. So the pictures can come up. That also came from the scrapbook paper. Here's a hat company, so I put her there because she has her hat on. And I think he's real happy. He's over here with this frisky lady. This also is, the corners just glued down so that can come out. And this can come out also. The pictures and the postcards can come out if they're authentic. And here's from a costume, jewelry, and bag company. So I figured maybe the bride got her stuff from there. These two pictures came from the scrapbook paper. And these are some old cutouts from, it must have been a magazine or something, but it has some cute, looks like paper doll stuff. Oh, I forgot to mention throughout the pages, there's some authentic 1920 and 1930 wallpaper. They're not reprints, it's the real stuff. And so I put pieces throughout. I forgot to point those out, or else I didn't see any yet. Maybe I didn't. Maybe that's the first one. Yeah, that probably is the first one. Oh, here's some right here. That's authentic wallpaper from that era. And there's some more right here. More receipts. There's some of the pieces of wallpaper. Some of the German scrapbook dies. There's some more German. Another photograph. More wallpaper. That comes from the scrapbook paper. More of the German cutouts. Authentic wallpaper. wallpaper, more pictures. This is for a, I think it was for a hat company or something, so I thought I'd put these guys here. We got a bunch of hats going on. And then this is sort of like the, ending of an era because you don't see too many of these kind of scrapbooks past the 40s and 50s. So this was a picture from the 1950s. And so that would, I would think that was like the last family member that decided to put anything in the book. Scrapbook paper, authentic wallpaper, more wallpaper. I thought that was a cool picture. It looks like a young woman out on the grass reading a book. She might be off to college. It looks like some kind of an older building there. Well, authentic wallpaper. These are from some old books, turn of the century, advertising penmanship, self-taught penmanship, and then a older postcard. So that is my scrapbook. It was a lot of fun to make, but it takes a lot of patience. So those of you that have all of these rolls sitting around, you may want to just keep them sitting around, or you may want to roll out all 23 feet, get a bunch of books, try and figure out how to flatten it all out, fold them all up, glue them all down, stick them in a book. um, but I really like how it came out. I really do, and I hope that you can get some inspiration. You may not do the exact same thing, but you might be inspired to bring out those rolls that most of us have sitting in the collecting dust, and see what you can make out of it, and have a lot of fun because I had a lot of fun making this, and I hope you will too.